And Turkey is trying to reinvent itself, if you notice. If you say anything in Turkey that even hints at talking about the Turkish role and oversight in the killing of 1.5 million Armenians, you end up like Dink, dead on arrival, room temperature, 6 feet down in a pine box. In Turkey, you don't get to say jack diddly squat nothing. You get exiled. You get ostracized, you get your land taken away, you get put in prison, or you get killed. You remember when Dink was executed and assassinated? Remember that? I related to that directly. Even though I'm not Turkish, I'm not Armenian, I don't consider myself a journalist, I'm a talk show host. We're not journalists, we're not news people, we're commentators, we're biased, right? If you're a biased liberal, biased conservative, but I'm a commentator. But when Dink was shot and killed and executed, and Turkey did absolutely jack diddly squat, but tried to ignore it, avoid it, what I call DID. Deny, ignore, delay doing anything about it. Although, I have to give credit, there were some righteous Turks and Turkish journalists who did protest, but $1 short and a day late. You know what they're afraid of. That those who are still alive, the few that there are, and every year there will be less and less, will not be able to tell their story. Okay, maybe the children and grandchildren will be able to, but it doesn't have the same potency, the same effect as those who were the victims of the Turkish Holocaust. So they're playing and marking their time. But you notice, they have a specific act in their penal code, 301. Any of you know what 301 is? You speak up, you even mention, you even question, you even raise your hand and say, hey, I understand that we Turks, we're accused of committing a genocide against the Armenians. Take that person to jail. Midnight Express. And we know what that means, having watched that movie in America. They are so off the hook. And we allow them to get away with this. I spoke at the demonstration outside of the Turkish embassy across from the United Nations. And do you know what these were animals did? These were older men and women, Armenians, some survivors of that Holocaust. I remember it was a dreary night. We didn't really have any kind of microphone like this. I had to use a bullhorn. And they came out, they're young Turkish men, hollering, screaming, cursing, intimidating the elderly people. I remember using that bullhorn, and there was like at least 80 or 100. And I yelled so loud that I literally blew out my vocal cords. I was hoarse for the next 2 days. But I wasn't going to let them bully the Armenians like they've bullied them for years. One person stood up and said no to the bully Turks. Why is it the greatest nation in the world, with the most powerful military, cannot stand up to these bullies and say to them, if you continue to be in denial, if you continue to try to rewrite history, you will have no friend in the United States. You'll never make it into the European Union. And you know something? We don't want you in NATO. Out you go. Why don't we have the onions? Why don't we have the chutzpah to look them in the eyes and say, until you tell the truth, you will be exiled from our community? Why?